Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and this is episode 116, The Last Rule, Part 3. So, after last week's non-fiction one, we are back to the story. And if you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And here we go. The information I got about the security around Vault 414 was disappointing. I had guessed a lot of it. It had indeed had its data bounced all around the world securely before being sent to the capital. On the other hand, this meant that whoever broke into the vault likely had help at the capital, or at the very least, the culprit had been here gathering intelligence. But I suspected at least a small team, despite what my lord had said. Perhaps when he said that he suspected only one, that there was a strong ringleader. Of course, nothing like this could have been accomplished without help. So, who got this information? I set teams of counterintelligence on the case. I hope you didn't expect me to figure it out on my own. This was out of my purview. I'm a leader, not a doer. But I can lead an investigation. I've done that many times. I sat through extremely dull briefings about the security around Vault 414. A lot of it was centered on the surveillance, with some devoted to the militia leader who was to also keep an eye on the place, as well as the physical defenses, which were daunting. The vault was designed to be indistinguishable from the field around it, but if that deceit was breached, the vault was steel, 3 meters thick, with secure locks that I have no idea how someone could possibly open them without authorization. I set some other people to figure that out. I had some time before I needed to go to eastern Siberia. But my information on the vault was slowing down. So I started to focus on the perpetrator. Who could have done this? Who knew about the vault, and what was in it? I didn't seriously consider the possibility that they entered the vault simply because it was so well protected that it must contain something of value. No, this was specific. After thinking it over, I decided to go to one of my best sources, the concubine wing. Big though the entire castle was, the concubine wing was exactly that. It was several square kilometers of bedrooms, lounging areas, bathrooms, and so on, housing the quite literally thousands of concubines for his lordship. He enjoys variety. And, of course, none of the concubines are allowed to touch another man, which means I have to wear a special suit just to go there, which completely covers my body and even prevents me from using my hands. This I am loath to do, but I do what I must. Lisa, whose fairly simple name belies her power, is Lord Carthag's favorite. This is quite an achievement, given the competition. I am flanked by 2 women, not concubines, but guards, who are there to make sure I do not touch Lisa at any time. These are entirely unnecessary, as I have no desire to touch her, but I do not object. Objecting would waste time, and not even change the outcome. The meeting room is open, well surveyed, yet not uncomfortable. I am already seated at a table, my guards standing not far behind me, when Lisa enters. If I were interested in women, I would be interested in Lisa. Whether she has a last name, or desires to just be called Lisa, or her last name was taken from her by our Lord, I do not know. She is tall, with dark skin that seems flawless, and long black hair that cascades in soft curls. Beyond those obvious qualities, I can only speculate how she became our Lord's favorite, but I assure you, it was not all accomplished in bed. We have met before, at formal occasions. "Vizier Thomas Remington," she said cordially. I smiled and nodded. "Lisa," I replied. I silently pondered how her simple name sounded at least as formal as my name with title. She sat down across from me at the table and gracefully intertwined her fingers. Though she was not as likely to get into trouble, she too would feel the pressure from those watching, both in person and through the cameras, to be seen as absolutely disinterested in me, which I'm sure she was. "What brings you to me?" she said. Her voice was low, melodic, and clear. Her dark eyes were focused on mine. She was trying to read me, even through the light gauzy mask I was required to wear. She could see my eyes, though I'm not sure how much detail she could make out. "As you may be aware, our Lord has had some difficulty recently," I replied. She nodded. I was glad. I would have had to be extremely limited in the information I could give her. When he relayed the information to me, he said that he had a suspect in mind, but he would not say who he suspects. I'm not sure what that means. If he had a name, I think he would give it to me to chase that person down. So I find myself at a loss. She simply looked back at me. I hadn't asked a question, and she did not volunteer anything. She seemed a little stiff, and I wondered if she was surprised in some way, perhaps by my forwardness. I'm rarely this obvious in my actions, especially around the castle. "Has he said anything you can tell me?" I asked. She looked down and a little to the side. "If my lord has something to tell you, he would tell you," she said. "I do not feel it is my place to tell you anything more. I do not know the name of the person you seek. I would have to be psychic." She placed a subtle emphasis on that last word. I did not know what that meant, but when she didn't say anything else, I stood up. "Thank you for your time, Lisa," I said, bowing. As soon as I left, I returned to my office to think. Not psychic. I opened a dictionary application. Psychic just meant what I knew it to mean. Someone who can read minds. A fortune teller. Fortune teller. Like a prophecy? My lord was quite superstitious. The non-touching of his concubines was not just to hold dominion over them. He also felt that if anyone had sex with one of his women, they might take some of his power. Perhaps my lord had seen the thief of Vault 14 in a dream, or in a tale told to him. How to find out who? And that's the end of the story for this week. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for listening. Words and music, copyright 2019, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Persons and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.